Okay.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Ernest Hancock and the Cash Man. Cash Man, hello Cash, how you doing, man? Say hello. You gonna show me your knife? Huh? Make sure you got your sound on. You gonna show me your knife, Cash? Let me see. There you go. Every young man's got to have a knife. Drop it on his dad's foot. That's always good. You know.
I had him muted because he was making all kinds of noise, but yeah,
of course he was. Well, we got limited shelf time, for the little guy. But we're going to be talking about, man, you got to be careful. Why don't you close that, man? You're scaring me.
It looks worse than it is. He's about a foot away from my face, so. All right, close it up, buddy. Put it in your pocket. We're going to talk to Ernie about dirt bikes and chickens.
Yeah, well, Cash, all I wanted to ask you before you go, I know your mom's got to take you, but we wanted to talk to you about you working on the farm, man.
Dirt bikes.
Okay, hold on. He wants to talk to you about working on the farm.
First. Yeah, no, dirt bikes. Yeah, it's always dirt bikes, man. I know the priority. So tell me, do you help feed the chickens and pigs and everything every day?
He's talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do? Did you learn a lot? Are you going to be a farmer when you grow up?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you like working on the farm and helping your dad?
Yeah.
What else? What do you like doing? What do you like doing? I see a bunch of pictures of you doing stuff. What's your favorite thing?
I like riding dirt bikes.
Dirt bike. It's all dirt bike, man. Dirt bike, dirt bike, dirt bike. Well, thanks for saying hi, Cash. I just wanted everybody to see you and say hello to you. Say hi to everybody.
Do you wave your hand, say hi?
Hi.
All right, now say goodbye.
well, just another minute here.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah. Do you drive any tractors or anything around the farm?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do with those tractors? What do you do with the tractors you drive?
Go in mud.
You go in mud. Yep. Yeah. What happens sometimes?
Get stuck.
Get stuck. Is that fun getting stuck in the mud?
No.
No. Do you like pulling them out of the mud?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we made a little mud pit. We've been getting the garden tractor stuck in the mud pit and a go-kart and hooking a rope to it and getting a couple of kids and pulling them out. Remember pulling out the tractor?
Kids.
Yeah, the Kaufman kids helped pull the tractor out, right?
Yeah, do you do that on purpose or
Yeah, we just kept on driving through there until we got stuck, That's what you do in the mud.
Yeah, I know. It's like Dad's like I made you a get stuck pile, because it's Jay. The one thing, Cash, I wanted to know is I see you driving around your go-kart, a lot. Do you like that? Are you a good driver now?
He's talking to you. Do you like your go-kart? Oh, can you tell Ernie what you figured out on the go-kart the other day? What did you figure out to do?
There's a brake.
Say that again. To make it go what?
Fast.
To make it go fast. He's out right. So there's a governor on the go-kart, and you can adjust it with a Phillips screwdriver. And so he's out back cruising around, and I got it set at about 5 miles an hour, like a quick walk. Well, he comes just cruising back, and it's like way faster than 5 miles an hour. And I'm like, "What'd you do?" He goes, "Oh, I put it in fast mode." So he should. So I
Because
got
you saw your dad doing it, didn't you?
yeah. And he took the screwdriver and he showed me the screw you turn, and he turned it to make it go faster. So now we got to keep this treating Phillips screwdrivers like keys around here.
Well, I'm glad you're having fun. We're all watching your videos when you're working and everything, Cash. We see you playing and working with your dad. That's really cool. We like to see that.
Yeah, and you like being a worker, right, Cash?
Yes.
Yep. And you like farming?
Yes.
Yep. All right, you want to tell Ernie what your favorite farm animal is?
Uh,
Well, what's your favorite animal? Is it the pig, the cows, the chickens? What's your favorite?
Do you like them all?
a
Yeah.
cat.
A cow, yep.
Yeah, a cow.
This
Well,
this is
Cash, thanks for coming on and saying hi to me. You know, everybody wanted to see you and say hi.
A moose. A moose.
What does he say?
a moose, he's saying, is his favorite animal.
A moose.
We don't
All right.
we don't
I wanna
raise any
talk-
moose here.
No.
I want to talk to your dad. You go to your mom. I know you guys are going to go somewhere.
All right.
Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, say bye to Ernie.
Bye, Artie.
All right,
Bye, Cash.
we'll see you later. Here. All right. Go see mom. You guys gotta go to Isley's.
Yeah, no kid. Yeah, little kids. They last a very short time. But you know that's why I wanted to. We just had David on, our friend Derek's 15-year-old son, and what he's getting all learnified on everything. And it was interesting. You know, big thing that at 15 years old, he doesn't really have any peers that are doing what he's doing or learning or out in the field and turning wrenches and fixing cars and all that. 15, 16, I was way into it. But of course, we didn't have broadband freaking video games and getting all blue face, forever. So
Right. You got your dopamine hit from riding those, ATVs and go-karts and things like
building
that.
forts and cutting down wood and
Yep.
yeah, I was a 2x4 son of a bitch, man. I could make all kinds of stuff. Give me enough 2x4s. Now they're like gold. You got it costs so much. But the reason we wanted to talk is that Jay Noone was one of the first guys that really emphasized bringing up even before he had kids, and now that he's got cash to play with, he did ManCamp. Now ManCamp's been going on. This was 22, 23. It really took off during COVID. The fact that you're going to Pork Fest, you're setting up stuff for children, not little kids. Well, sometimes little kids, but parents were bringing their 13, 14, 7, 8-year-old kids there to learn forging, making stuff, a little bit of welding, do some fire, and they're bringing their daughters. It was interesting to see how much the parents wanted to see them get some hands-on and maybe get inspired. And I wanted you to talk about, the reason you focused on, even before you had children, you saw this was an important thing to give skills and confidence and competence to young kids. Tell us about that, will you please?
Well, my observation was made as, growing up on a horse farm. So my father we had basically a commercial horseback riding operation. We would buy and sell horses. We would train horses. And we gave lots of riding lessons. And there was basically a lot of kids from just the surrounding town and towns grandma bought them a 6-pack of riding lessons, and they got 6 riding lessons, and then the parents basically didn't have money to buy riding lessons for them. So these kids that wanted to work off their riding lessons, we were happy to do a work trade deal, a barter situation, and the kids were, we needed horses that needed to get ridden and stalls that get cleaned and stacking hay and driving the tractor and hooking up trucks and trailers, and every truck had a manual transmission. So all these kids, they were like, oh yeah, for years now, I've been hearing they're like, I know how to use a clutch because I grew up, because I went to your farm, for example. Um, and they even, I had some, when I was a hay dealer, I had some semi trucks. So I had, these kids were, not even 20 years old. And I was, they were able to competently drive a semi truck, especially a lot of the girls. And it was mostly like 90% girls on this, that came to the barn basically to, get involved in horses and take riding lessons. So like when I invited a bunch of them to my wedding, that was, we just celebrated our 7th anniversary this past Father's Day. But when I invited, a bunch of these barn kids to my wedding, I was really pleased with the stories they were telling me about basically their lives. And sounds like and they were, had great gratitude for my dad, for example, and for the farm. Oh, there's Cypress. And that gave them a bunch of these skills. Well, you can't see them. It's just us they can see. So, anyways,
No, you can see right here. Say hi, Cypress. Cypress. Hello, you beautiful little girl. Yeah, you got any teeth coming in yet? Let me see your teeth. You got teeth? Ah, you don't got no teeth. What's up with that? Yeah, you're
I have
getting
a hole in my teeth. I can fix my tongue.
yeah, you're getting big people teeth now. Yeah, you're becoming a big girl.
You remember
Well,
that
that's
guy's
good.
name?
Yeah, you remember Ernie. All right, I'll talk to you later, Cypress.
All right.
Go ahead,
Go
Jay.
get some ice cream for me, all right? So I noticed that the kids that hung out around the farm, even if they only did like one summer, they would go work at like the lumber yard, or like one of them became an electrician, another one became a plumber, for example. And these were like actually friends that were guys that weren't even really into horses, but it was the fact that they made, some money stacking hay or cleaning stalls or helping build fence. And then actually our barn burnt down in 1997. I think I was a junior in high school, and a whole bunch of my buddies came that summer and worked on the barn. A bunch of these guys just showed up. Some of them with their dad, some of them by themselves, and they just helped us build, sort of Amish style. So they learned a bunch of skills there. And so, like, these guys never had, like, none of them ever got fired from a.
Damn it, you froze up. Let me go ahead and kill my feed. Jay, you there?
Pretty much all these kids that got some farming experience on the horse farm and doing the work, they were all like superstars wherever they worked. So they never had issues, like finding jobs or finding work or finding money. And I've noticed this with like the kids who grew up like into motorsports. They're usually they can be mechanics and make some money. And in any of these kids who their parents are basically, farmers or entrepreneurs, even if they just ran like a coffee shop or some kind of store or any kind of business, the children of entrepreneurs seem to.
Jay, go ahead and kill your video. We'll just go ahead and run graphics, and because the bandwidth is going either from
All
my
right.
end or your end. It might be you.
Should I say, should I repeat anything or?
Yeah, just go ahead. You had, the farmers and ranchers and so on. Those kids were doing a lot better than their peers.
Right, right. So at the job, like people, like a friend of mine had a roofing company, and he's like, man, the kids that worked on your farm, they turned out really well on the roofing crew. He's like, he goes, I've never had to fire the farmer kids. I always had to offer them more money to keep them around because, they would, get jobs. But farmers, got good work ethic. And part of, hold on, we're not doing any video stream right now, honey. So Cypress wanted to show you a kitten, but you're gonna have to show him later. Okay. So these kids, they're pretty useful. So and competent people. So the thing is, for future generations, Generation Next, I want my kids to have minimal government, and because the more government we have, the less freedom we have. I want them to have maximum freedom. And people who lack confidence are like the kind are basically the plurality of people who essentially, hey, Cypress, honey, I need you to go. So the kind of people who lack confidence beg for government. And that's a huge, sector of the population, best I can tell. And the more incompetent that you are, the more likely you're going to beg government to take care of your, situation. So if we can start by imprinting confidence, incentivizing confidence in children right now, not right tomorrow, then, you know, when they're adults, they won't be begging for government. Hopefully they'll have the confidence to not want government and to want a very minimal government. So that's essentially the thing. ManCamp is to restore confidence in mankind. I think confidence is like number one, and the way I'm building confidence in my children is I'm building confidence through skill, essentially learning skills. So like when a 6 or 7 year old kid does some iron blacksmithing, makes a coat hook out of a piece of iron, 1/4 inch round stock like I do at Pork Fest and Anarchapulco now, and here at my place. That confidence soars, and I've had multiple moms tell me that the kids won't even hang the coat hook up on a wall. They want to bring it home, or they want to bring it to school or to wherever they go to show their friends. They're so proud of it. So now what we try to do is have the kids make 2 or 3 coat hooks, and then they can have ones that they use and another one they brag about. So it is really good, and the feedback from the parents is just awesome.
Yeah, this is one thing I remember. I was at your place. We were working on prepping the bus and everything, and doing a lot of work. And you have guys working there, and you have homeschoolers come one day a week, and they're doing little kid farming and everything. And and I don't know how it came up. And I asked you. It was I was doing shows, and it come up. I'm always no fear, no fear, no fear. And I go, what's the opposite of fear? Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I said competence is the opposite of fear. Because and what I've been knowing is, or one of the things I've been doing since I moved to New Hampshire, before I had kids a lot, and I still do it, but is I would have like friends come over and we'd work on their trucks. So like for 2 years, my friend Neil Smith, who owns Bardo Farm, every Wednesday, every week, unless it was really poor weather, uh, but basically all summer long, he would bring either one of his trucks or a trailer or a car, and we would just work on it for like 6 hours. So we like these old Dodge diesel pickup trucks, so we basically have gone all through a couple of Neil's trucks, for example, Neil and he understands everything about his trucks. But between the multiple trucks and the tractors and farm equipment he has, and the 2 years we spent working together every Wednesday, now he is like super competent, and he is not like afraid of breaking things on his tractor and what's he going to do. And he also, listens for like squeaks and different noises and tries to, pay attention. When a guy's driving his tractor and it's going squeak, 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 I'm like, hey, you hear that squeaking? And most of them are like, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, that's like a universal joint going bad or something. We got to, look into that and start greasing things. And he's like, oh, and a lot of these guys don't even grease their equipment. They don't even know how. Um, so whether you're doing it, building, the confidence with adults or children, it's really important. And one thing I've noticed with all of like my peers, so I'm 46 years old now, but I've helped many, many of my peers when I was living in Colorado, living in Mass, living in New Hampshire, wherever I've been, um, with building confidence in whatever thing they're interested in. And like one of the number one issues that a lot of Americans have, especially like lower to middle class or poor to middle class Americans, is like if a car issue happens, they are screwed. Most
Yeah.
Americans, their number one asset is their car. And in some places like Massachusetts, California, we have like really strict like emission laws and inspection stickers and stuff. And no more inspection stickers in New Hampshire, by the way. The Free Staters got rid of inspection stickers, which is awesome.
Yay.
So but if somebody's like check engine light comes on, like they start freaking out. A lot of these people, they have no clue. And like you know, me, for example, I haven't had a car payment in almost 20 years, a truck payment, because I got competent enough to where I could just fix trucks that were bought and paid for example, for work. So like right now, I haven't had a car payment, like I said, since probably 2008, I guess, so not quite 20 years. But it's not having car payments for the last, 15 years is really handy. And a lot of people, they got these car payments and then you have to pay wicked insurance, for example, mostly because they just feel or they don't have the competence, for example, or the confidence to like work on their own car or do like their own maintenance and things. And a lot of people, for example, throw out cars for, a few $100s in parts and a few hours of labor, kind of work and don't even realize it, for example. So I figured, so one of my friends, her name is Carla Mora, and she's a shaman. So for years now, I've known Carla, and she's been talking about healing people from traumas. And I'm like, so part of like that has got me thinking about like, well, why don't we just like not, try to keep the traumas away from our kids, for example, and also let's, imprint them just like we'd imprint a horse, for example, or a dog. So I spent a lot of my life training horses, and we would imprint horses from day one to like, pick up their feet, you'd rub up like the clippers to clip their manes and their muzzles and stuff, the hair clippers, all around their faces and stuff, and you just work with them and like throw like a plastic trash bag over them and around them, and maybe wrap a rope around each one of their legs and kind of just let the animal just gets used to it. It's called imprinting. So I'm gonna mute myself here for a second, Ernie.
Yeah, go ahead. This is, to emphasize I say this a lot. I repeat what Jay had told me. And I go, the opposite of fear, competence. Confidence comes with competence, but it kind of surprised me. He goes, competence. And I'm just going, why? And he explained, he goes, well, when you know how to do stuff, you're competent in things, then, you gain confidence. You know how to do stuff. You're not as afraid, when things come up that you have to be able to do. You know how to do it. You're not afraid. And like you were saying, a lot of times people have their vehicle is, the most important thing. They need to keep it going. And I had so many friends that were proud of the idea that they never touched their car. Oh, I'm a cat guy. And I remember one guy was a big IT guy, and he had, squeaking brakes. His brake pads needed to be changed. And he goes in, and of course they go, oh, well, this side's a little, more war than this side. And, that's $300 and something caliper. And after we do got $600-700, for a $15 change. And I'm going, look, really? Bring it over to my house. We'll take care of it. Boom. I mean, it's like, 40 minutes and we were done. And he learned something, but there are a lot of people, they take pride in the fact, I don't know where that came from, but they take pride in the fact that they don't do manual labor, that they don't work on their car, that they don't change their oil, that they don't. And now just to get an oil change, it's like $100. I'm like, holy crap! I remember it was $24.99, But this has been really an eye opener for me over my life, in which I'm not a young'un. I'm 64, so I've been through a lot. But to see it trending that way, then you get to know Jay and his advocacy for ManCamp, for men, and certainly for young men and women to come up and learn how to change their freaking disc brakes. This is such a simple thing to do, and it's a regular maintenance thing. Another thing is Jay's really big on maintenance, greasing a lot of heavy equipment. So he's kind of instilled that in me. Him and Derek, they on my ass. So when I got a new Kubota tractor, I'm a greasing son of a bitch. And I learned that you have, instead of these pump, and it's a pain in the butt to get underneath in the bus. And dude, they got battery electric. I just put it on and pull a trigger. Hell, man, I'm all about that. How much do those cost? Don't care. I need one. So this is, and you can get one for $100 or something at Harbor Freight. But the point is this kind of preventive maintenance, regular maintenance, the ability to fix simple things, or you can just go to AutoZone and get the code, whatever light went off on your thing, and it goes, yeah, well, it's that oxygen sensor environmental of California crap, you know? So do you change it, not change it? I mean, these things that we need to know, I feel as we get in, and we went through this during COVID, the lockdowns, you know, you can't have your store open, you can't fix, then you get, you know, yellow tape around seeds at Walmart. I mean, wow. And I remember Jay, you know, come on in whenever you're ready, Jay. What Jay did is you go on Facebook Marketplace and so on, you couldn't advertise animals. You couldn't, you know, put on, I got a dog, I got a, you know, goat, I got a whatever. So they were looking for and selling pigs, little piglets. So what did they put? They go, bacon seeds. I go, what the hell's a bacon seed? Pigs, little piglets. The only way we can get, you know, we can market it on that platform. So, you know, you start to see that there is a conscious and directed effort to make sure that, I don't know, we're dependent on something. And even when you are a self-start, know how to fix, got your own little machine shop welder kind of farmer, oh, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to work on your John Deere. You're not allowed to use your own seeds. You have to buy from Monsanto. We are being purposely targeted to be dependent.
Oh, yeah.
The most independent people are the ones that they're targeting, and certainly the youth. So Jay comes out and goes, no, we got to have a course correction on this. And that's why I wanted to talk to him. And the reason I want to talk to you, Jay, was because this is a theme that I've been kind of pushing anyway. But Doug Casey came out with a book called The Preparation. And Matt Smith, that he does co-host his podcast with and everything. And those that don't know Doug Casey, he's a anarcho-capitalist, you know, super rich libertarian, leave me aloneist kind of guy that's famous from predicting everything since the 70s. And New York Times best-selling author. A lot of people, everybody wants to go see, like, Freedom Fest. He's the star attraction. Everybody goes because of him. Well, he's been a regular on the show and everything, and a good friend. And he came out with latest book, The Preparation, which he'd been thinking about for a long time, along the lines of what Jay's been talking about. And it's a 16 course, 3 months per course, and 16 of those, that makes 4 years. And he goes, how much do you spend on sending your kid to go get woke? He comes back, you know, home for holidays, the first Thanksgiving after he goes to college, and you're the problem and the patriarchy is, and you're kind of, and I'm woke and I got, you know, purple hair and I wish to transition into being whatever. So no, hell no. So he does the preparation with these 16 steps. Now, Matt Smith has a son that's 20 years old now, Maxim, and I've interviewed him before when he started doing his own YouTube channel and so on years ago. And he's been doing this for a year and a half, a couple of years, and going through, he's like the alpha tester. He ain't beta, man. He's actually, you know, the alpha tester on this thing. And he's been doing cowboying. He's a gaucho in Uruguay. He learned to sail. He went around the Straits of Magellan on a sailing ship. He's doing going to Thailand to learn 3-month program, learning Muay Thai, you know, the self-defense. He's welding. He got his EMT certification. He started his pilot classes. He's, you know, been wildfires using his EMT skill. This is what Jay has been talking about. And now that he has young children, and we got to meet Cash and Cassatius, you know, Cassatius is his name, and call him Cash Man, and Cypress, his daughter, Jay has already been advocating for this kind of getting your buzz, your dopamine, your hit, your whoa, I got more friends. Playing video game. Whoa, I get a reward. Mario's got a coin. Well, you get that from going out and getting eggs. You know, feeding the animals, doing it how he learned. So he's going, look, he's been presenting around the world. I mean, not just in the United States, you know, on this very thing. And I wanted to, my good friends, Derek Sloper, was talked to his oldest son, 15, David, And my friend Bob has 2 sons that are now the 20-year old is now a AP, which is a airframe mechanic certified, working on jets. And he's a young man. He's got it going on already. His older brother just graduated Embry-Riddle and speaks, Russian, and he works for Amazon and security on IT of kind of what we're going to be interviewing them. And here are, and of course I have my sons that, they do great. And one of them's a pilot also. And I'm just like looking, we need to emphasize this. And the first person I heard, talking about raising Generation Next to be competent so they don't have fear was Jay Noone. But he was the last one of us to have a son. So he gets to do it from early time to where his little son Cash is out there figured out where the governor is, and he's not allowed to have a Phillips screwdriver because he turns it up so I can go fast, So this is what we're talking about. And you're back, Jay?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. I've been here the whole time. Yeah, so this is what we've been talking about. This is the concern. This is, I think very important. I very much believe in the good things coming because my intention is to create and manifest and incentivize the good things coming. So when Cypress was born, this was February of 2020, and we're in a hospital, had to do a C-section, and there's just, all this, COVID stuff coming in. And, we were trying to do the vaccine education summit. We were working on planning that, and that all, we couldn't find any venue that would host us in New Hampshire. Everybody was shut down. But anyways, I remember talking to one of my my good friends. I hadn't talked to him about 10 years, and he goes, so, what's your plan for, raising your daughter? And so she turns out to be a wholesome woman. And I says, well, I don't really have a plan for that. I says, my biggest concern is, I have a lifestyle already, which is the farms, that is the plan basically. But I said to him, my biggest concern is there going to be a valuable, competent, young man for her to, pick in 20 years? That's my biggest concern. So, I started a homeschool co-op. So I have a couple of families. Sometimes it's just a few families show up. Sometimes it's 7 families show up. And I just invited all my friends that have kids to come over and start doing farm chores with their kids. So, for example, one of the families that show up is Jeremy Kaufman's family and his wife, Rachel. They got 4 kids. And they come to our homeschool co-op, and they've been doing it very consistently for 3 years. And her 2 older boys are 8 and 6, and they can pretty much run both of my tractors. I've had them like sitting on my lap while running the tractor and was stacking round bales, put a round bale spike in the tractor bucket, and they operate the joystick or operate the shifter. Sometimes I got 2 kids in the tractor with me. One operates the shifter, one operates the steering wheel. And we did that a lot with my dad and my grandfather growing up. He would let my brother shift from the whoever was sitting in the passenger side would shift. Whoever was sitting in the middle of the pickup truck would do the steering wheel, and whoever was behind the wheel did the gas and the clutch and the brake, and he would have us trade out. I remember doing that with my grandfather.
Did I lose you? You there?
Yeah. So your internet connection's unstable.
No, mine's okay.
Okay, I just think so. So, anyways, I got a pretty nice little lawnmower for the kids to use. I took the mower deck off of it, and I got a little wagon. And you can see in that slideshow, there's some pictures of Cash driving a lawnmower. Well, my friend.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, that sucks. Are you there, Jay?
I am here. Yes, I am here. Um,
What's your
I,
internet? What are you using?
I don't know. We got broadband or fiber. I don't know what we got for internet. It's connected right into the an Ethernet, so it should be fine. Uh,
All right, well, continue. We got you good now.
so, anyways, hopefully the recording comes through without any chopping up. So I got a lawnmower that has like a regular clutch. It's a riding lawnmower. I took the mower deck off it, and the kids are using it with the wagon. So I got a bunch of the homeschool co-op kids driving a lawnmower, so they all understand the function of a clutch. I have a tractor that's like a 60 horsepower farm tractor with a bucket on it, regular dry clutch. I got some older kids that are, I think one's like 12 now, and a couple 13 and 14-year-old kids. Past couple of years, they all mastered driving that old tractor around. So they can all use clutch. The other thing too is these kids are like, so for example, a couple of the homeschool co-op families, we got like 100 meat birds that we're going to harvest on Tuesday. We're going to butcher a bunch of these chickens. And a couple of the homeschool co-op families are sort of invested in the chickens. Like one family's taking 15 chickens, another family's taking 10. And when we butcher them, but they like live in the city. They can't raise chickens in their yard. So the kids are helping out with all the chores. So I've been putting the kids to work pretty good this summer with this chicken deal with all these chickens at 1 day a week, and they're really good about it. And especially the kids who have been coming since they were little, like since they were toddlers, or since their mom was like carrying around in the baby carrier, they are really into it. They're very comfortable with it. They're comfortable with all the chickens, the pigs, the cows. Uh, and they're definitely earning the dopamine hit from this stuff. And also, I really, really want to groom the boys to be into like car culture, automobile culture, whatever, motorsports, something, because the kids that grow up tinkering with dirt bikes and go-karts and the lawnmower, chainsaws, whatever, by the time they're 15, like when I was 13 years old, I already had two of my own trucks, for example, and somebody gave them to me and I just fixed them. So if these kids are learning about this stuff, they're not going to have a lot of money into a car, and they'll be able to maintain their car. And how awesome is it, being an 18-year-old and having a good, reliable car that you could fix and no payments. So that really builds some confidence doing that. So the idea is if we can get these boys into like mechanic culture, automotive culture. I really like the garden tractor pulling, for example, getting them into that. They're going to be attractive, to the women when they're in their 20s, especially if they don't get into drugs or drinking. But all the kids I learned that I grew up with that did not get into drugging and drinking, that were involved in like motorsports or farming, or their parents had a small business, they've turned out really, really well, and they are thriving.
Because
Yep.
no, I got you. And it's because of what? Just being able to make it to work, or because they got a work ethic?
I think it's because of many things. So I think it's because if you own your own business, childcare is really expensive. So as an entrepreneur, and you're an entrepreneur, this is, you had the pizza shop, car detailing business, that stuff you did, you had to put your kids to work. So it's sort of a necessity to put your kids to work. First off, to keep them out of trouble, give them something to do, because idle hands just find themselves in trouble. So give them jobs. And what I've noticed with my kids and all these homeschool co-op kids is when they're like three years old, man, they really want a job. Like basically for about 3 hours a day, almost every day, Cash, myself, and Cypress, or just me and Cash, or just me and Cypress, we're like doing some kind of farming. And my kid, and that's what we call it, farming. And every once in a while, Cash will be like, "Dad, I'm done farming. I want to go ride my bike. I want to go ride my go-kart." So I'm like, "Well, we got a little more farming to do, and then you can go do it," is usually what happens. I don't just let him, quit when he wants to. But yeah, building the dopamine hit, and also not providing this other dopamine hit, which is the internet devices, which is television, not letting them, become algorithmic slaves. Like, this kid, if this kid was actually the one who killed Charlie Kirk, and I don't believe anything the government's got to say, everything's a false flag and a psyop. But if this guy that killed Charlie Kirk is, been like, transformed, it's gone crazy or whatever. I don't know the whole deal, but it sounds like, there's some serious, like, brainwashing issues going on. It'd be interesting, did his parents let him use the internet device when, he was really young? One of the presentations I've been doing for like Anarchapulco and Pork Fest and Liberty Forum and these things is don't let your babies grow up to be device junkies. Internet devices are basically cocaine for your children. So not having the internet is huge. So my kids don't use any internet devices. Now I do let them watch some shows, but the way we watch some shows is I don't have a TV in the house. One thing I really I thought was very attractive about my wife when I started dating her, she had no television in her apartment. I thought that was really cool. So we do have a projection monitor, a digital monitor, which I think is the least harmful way to let your kids like watch some content. And obviously I'm very particular about what content I let them watch. We do let them watch some shows in the evening. And what's really nice about the digital projector, it's not direct blue light, like a screen facing at them. And in fact, it's not even a really clear picture compared to a screen, which I like better. So by not letting them get into the internet devices, I think is huge, because now it's like, you didn't let them start doing cocaine, so they're really cool with just, getting a dopamine hit, accomplishing tasks, riding dirt bikes, making a dirt bike go faster, more powerful, or whatever, which will come on, or the four-wheeler or the car or the truck or whatever, which incentivizes them to start getting greasy and turning wrenches and figuring things out, and makes them valuable. I mean, if Mad Max has happened, I'm not afraid of Mad Max. I'm actually looking forward to it. We're ready to go. Let's do it. My wife wouldn't say the same thing, but just, when it comes to equipment and stuff, I'm very competent. I am not worried at all. I mean, I'm a guy who buys a 21-year-old minivan with 250,000 miles on it from some dude on Craigslist, and then I drive the thing 2,000 miles home.
This is one thing that is of interest. People will get to know. There was a good friend of ours, Davi Barker, that wrote. It was Survivor Max, and it was about, it was before the pandemic, but it was basically a virus that, turns you into a zombie and whatever. And what happened was they were talking about the future and how they scrounged for this and scrounged for that and, did this. And Jay is like, man, you guys are doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
In your next book, which he did a sequel and included a lot of the suggestions by Jay, well, you can do this and you can use this as fuel and you can do that. And you go, man, I'd be king of the hill. I would have everything I need. All the women got to come to me because, they get air conditioning. So it was just knowing these things. And certainly he loves him some diesels. So this is because they're so EMP resistant. The zombie apocalypse is going to be on diesel, So this is a lot of the things that Jay brings to the table for all of us. And I remember we had a Freedom Festival we do in northeastern Arizona, and Freedom's Phoenix sponsored a $1,000 prize for the best camp spot, a bug out kind of thing. Well, we kind of split it up. Jay got first place, but we split it up between him and Derek. Derek had the high-tech ambulance that was the center hub of communication, of posting directly webcam, whatever, to the internet, of access up on the hill and the microwave, blah, blah, blah. Jay, totally the other side. Zombie apocalypse vehicle, with a welder and a blowtorch out of the junkyard. And he had, but can you go 2,000 miles, on this tank and the pressurized the blah, 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 blah. It was just, so quickly became an admirer of Jay. And now he takes a lot of this knowledge, and you're focused on Generation Next having access to this kind of information, that there should be part, which you keep emphasizing your youth and what you're doing on your farm with people, the young kids coming, because you understand that all of this type of information came from when you were young, when you were a child, when you were a kid, when you made use of it. Let's go get Jay. Well, they've been doing, let's go get Jay to do it since he was freaking 12. I mean, so.
Yeah, literally.
And it continues at his place. The entire Free State community there know if they have diesel equipment, a tractor, a lawn tractor, a car, or whatever, they know Jay can fix it. They know that he'll give them a good deal. They know that he'll let you use his place. Hell, you can fix it. He'll show you how to fix it. And this is such an ad, and then you emphasizing that, well, if you don't have the time or inclination to come do it, bring on the children. We need to get them learnified. So this is not just a character building thing. It's a life-saving thing, because we're going into I've had, especially this Charlie Kirk thing, I've been feeling something like this was coming. I mean, I didn't have any idea of what, but I get my spidey senses up, and there's something a coming. I'm wondering, the times that we're threatened with our debt, the economics, and you go, no, that wouldn't happen. It can't happen here. Did you not just go through COVID and lockdowns and what the government did, the lying, the deception, the misinformation, the BS? Where do you think we are going? What is it that you're hoping to prepare for? Why is this important to you? I need to understand the why. What do you think we are needing Generation Next to get prepared for?
Well, the confidence is the big thing, and if we can, especially here in New Hampshire, so one of the things we have going on here with New Hampshire with this Free State project is the Free Staters are having lots and lots of kids. There is this pork fest. There was like hundreds of children, young children, kids like 10 and under, hundreds. Most I've ever seen. The playground was mobbed with kids. We had a whole Freedom Breeders section. We didn't even talk about Pork Fest, but I did 40. I had over 40 some odd kids make iron coat hooks. Doing the blacksmithing. I had a bunch of adults make coat hooks. I had several kids come back and just keep on making. One kid made about 30 or 40 hooks himself to take home and stuff. I'm like, yeah, go for it, buddy. Several kids made, 7, 8, 10 coat hooks. I just kept it simple. One kid made a knife actually about 5 or 6 kids made knives out of some rebar.
Hell yeah. That's the only thing
Yep.
I did. I went to your thing. What did I got to make? I got to make me a knife.
I'm like, I'm not teaching a knife class, and I don't really have any knife steel, but yeah, you guys can go for it if you want to use this or whatever. So anyways, so New Hampshire, the libertarians, the conservatives are having lots of babies. There is basically pretty much all the women that are here that are able to have children are doing it with intention to outbreed the status and essentially the government worshippers.
They're going to have to bring in more, African and South Americans, and they're going to have to, out immigrate you.
Right. Well, so yeah, but when I'm an old man, it's really important to me that the children are useful, valuable, and competent, and if I can have put some effort, a little bit of an investment into these kids. So like I tell people, the greatest return on investment in children is before they're 6 or 7 years old. Yep. But the investment is still really meaningful, after that. So like these kids, if I can get these kids to earn a dopamine hit doing some kind of farm work, that is the dopamine hit that they're going to chase for the rest of their life, is doing some kind of work. So they're probably going to.
Okay, you keep mentioning dopamine. For those that don't know, why is that important? What does that mean?
So dopamine is the messenger molecule in the brain. everything comes down to dopamine. So, for example, anticipating, you know, when you're really hungry, anticipating getting home and eating dinner, sort of anticipating a dopamine hit of eating dinner can be like a dopamine hit of just eating really good food. The dopamine hit that most of us are familiar with are dopamine hits people are getting from opiates to where and drugs to where it totally ruins their brain and they can no longer essentially have any form of satisfaction or happiness without being on, the dopamine enhancing drug, which like an opiate or something. Well, and the same exact thing happens with computers, but dopamine is a messenger molecule that bounces back and forth, or a hormone between brain cells, and is also part of our reward system. So it all comes down to dopamine hits, where easy dopamine hits is getting the brain satisfaction from like a soda or drugs or alcohol, or even like, oh, they were closed. Okay, even like internet devices. So the internet devices are these very easy dopamine hits. They really, really get a hold of young children's, especially under six, brains. I think it's making algorithmic slaves out of them. But it's rewiring their brains. In fact, one of the things that it's doing, and this
planned, it's on purpose. There's
Yes.
a documentary called The Social Dilemma, and it was all about these tech execs and people that are programming and doing this and own these companies and so on. They don't let their kids on the internet. They don't let them go to their platforms. They know better. They know this is weaponized. This is on purpose. It's like putting sugar and addictive whatever in your Cheerios. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose.
I had to mute you for a second. The kids got back. The ice cream place was closed.
Oh.
So anyways, yeah, so like I did a bunch of research on, these the internet devices, the tablets, the smartphones, the screens are all designed to be addictive. They're actually running at a very addictive frequency, very pleasing to the eye and the brain. And it is engineered to be addictive. And the number one thing I think that we can do to help keep our children competent is not exercise the fear part of the brain. So the problem with the internet device is it stimulates the part of the brain called the amygdala. I have a whole presentation all about this. And anyways, the amygdala is the part of the brain that's responsible for fear response. So if, for example, you're walking through the woods and you come across a mountain lion or a saber-toothed tiger, and you get away, you can get away from something instead of just hanging out looking at it, for example, there's a fear response. So the problem with the internet devices is it's constantly stimulating the amygdala, which is the fear response part of the brain. The amygdala is also the part of the brain that's stimulated by violence, drugs, sex, alcohol, things like that. And the internet, and when you're chronically stimulating the fear part of the brain, the fear receptor, essentially, a feared region, it programs a child's brain to be in a constant state of fear. Is the number one thing that the internet device does. Whether you're doing very wholesome, like learning how to count and read, or it's just entertainment, you're just watching, some stupid cartoon or whatever. But whatever you're doing with these internet devices, the result is it is stimulating the amygdala, which is the fear region of the brain. And then I believe that the brain just get programmed to be afeared all the time. And the National Institute for Health did a study in 2016 and in 2021, gathering up metadata from device applications, internet applications that are tailored for children. And what they had determined is that the average time, every day in 2016, the average 3 to 9 year old is using the internet device, that app, for 7 hours a day.
Ugh.
and in 2021, that was the average 3 to 9-year-old, and 12 or 13, 19-year-old was using the internet device 9 hours per day, according to the metadata. Hey, Sliders, don't play that, honey. I'm doing a podcast. So the the internet devising is, and the parents are using it as, I know, buddy, we're not watching the show, pacifiers. They're using it as pacifiers and babysitters. Hey, come on, honey. She's playing the piano over there. So the parents that are going to have serious issues with their children are the ones that are using these internet devices as pacifiers and babysitters. And one of the things I really, really appreciate about sort of the free stater community, the libertarians, is a lot of them really know this and understand it. And all of the families that participate in my homeschool co-op, they are all undeviced families. In fact, they are all unvaccinated families too, which is really nice. So the kids are healthy, they're attentive, they don't have TikTok brain. Ernie, a couple years ago at PorkFest, I remember you were standing right there when I was teaching a kid to blacksmith. And I said right to his dad, I said, "Oh, he has TikTok brain, doesn't he?" And his father, was just really he's like, "How'd you know?" He didn't know what to say. And I don't know if you remember that kid. He was like, "Hey, mister, this, that, or the other thing." Like every 30 seconds, he would just say, "Hey, mister," and like some squirrel was catching his attention across the way. And he's like, "Yeah, he does use internet devices. But we don't let any of his younger siblings do that because he's so crazy about them." And I'm like, well, maybe when you get home, there's no Wi-Fi. Nothing works. There's no internet devices. And so he did that and broke the kid free. I think the kid was like 7 or 8 maybe. But yeah, now they're a device-free home, that family too. And it is like hell getting the kids off the device, especially like the 7, 8, 9-year-old boys. They get really, really angry. And, there's videos everywhere of these kids going crazy because the tablet don't work or whatever.
Yeah, they shoot their mom.
Yep. So,
this has been, my experience. My kids, didn't have this. I mean, they were T9, with on their, the actual numbers on their phone to be able to even send text. It was like limited by, how much else the speed you could do it. And, but I could see it coming, man. Because it used to be when we would, of course, they had to pay for their own damn internet and phone and text and stuff. But you would get a bill. In the mid-2000s, it was, as a parent, you'd have their flip phones, before there were smartphones, and you had to pay after a certain amount. You had like a nickel a text or something, and I'm getting a big bill. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So you would be able to see it. Well, now it's unlimited, and parents, they don't even know. And I'm very cognizant of what's happening to my grandchildren. Now, my kids, they, don't allow them. They have like timers on their tablets. It goes for 15 minutes and then it turns off, and the kids go into meltdown to get another 15 kind of crap. Or on the weekends. I find on the weekends, me and Dad watching football at peace. You go play your games all you want. And so at least they limit it, but it doesn't matter. They're still, all weekend, you're addicted. And the one thing that I noticed, it's like intentional. Donna and I were watching here recently. We were watching what we always do, some homesteading, growing video, concrete, something. And had nothing to do with nothing other than that. And then all of a sudden it goes to, a YouTube video. You can't skip it in 5 seconds anymore. You got to go, 60 seconds or something. But you got to watch some horror movie preview of scared the crap out of you in 5 seconds. I don't need to watch the damn thing. They trigger fear. When you watch any R-rated movie, you go to the movie theater, it's an action flick of whatever the hell it is. They got to show you all the horror films and the worst parts. you don't even have to watch the movie. They trigger what you're talking about, this fear response, this graphic, strangle somebody, woman, dark alley, whatever the hell. And I just put my fingers in my ears, close my eyes, and hum, during the whole damn thing. Because I'm like, really? And I used to go to the movie right when it was scheduled so I could watch the 20 minutes of the trailers. I was like, ooh, I want to see the next action flick. Hell no. I know it's 22 minutes that they have this crap, so I'm not even in a rush to get in there. We get time, we go buy popcorn, whatever, and then hell, I don't even go to the movies anymore. But this has been like it's intentional. And the fact that you're paying attention to it over this time, certainly as it applies to children, I'm wondering, any of your research, you're finding that this is like planned? There's some attack on Generation Next?
Yes, this is definitely planned. I've found articles where there.
I'm sorry, articles what? Oh, this sucks. This is good. So I'm going to have him repeat everything he says.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Yeah, little kids, man. They're all over it.
Yeah, I just had to tell them to be quiet for a minute. Anyways, so it is addictive by design. There's all kinds of evidence of this. There's whistleblowers. There was a Facebook whistleblower a few years ago testified about this. There is an Apple whistleblower over a decade ago. He come out and said that internet devices, the dopamine hit that developing brains get from internet devices is so extreme that in order for an adult brain to basically get the same dopamine hit, it would result in an overdose, from cocaine. So, and of course, if you look at, the agenda, the number one motivator of mammals, livestock is fear, same thing as people. So you couldn't have had the COVID thing without all of the years of social media, fear programming that has been, pushed down everybody's throats, that is plugged into the matrix, essentially, plugged into the internet. And like I keep on saying is algorithmic slave. The children's brains are being rewired to become algorithmic slaves. The fear emotion is being stimulated constantly when they're on an internet device, even though they're not being afraid, even if they're being excited and they're watching. Go ahead. I'm going to mute this for a minute.
The one thing that I wanted to make sure that, why the ManCamp thing was so important and to have, because Jay understood the power of these dopamine hits, the power of I click, play, click, watch, click, porn, whatever the hell, and that you can replace that with productive work. You can replace that with learning how to. My grandchildren would come over every Monday. I would do I had a live show 5 days a week, but I would do a rerun of Friday's show on Monday because my grandchildren were over, and we would build stuff. I mean, sandboxes that would close up, have little benches, and of course it'd take a month, as opposed to a few hours. But that was not the point. The point was just like what he's doing, to make sure that they get the pleasure and the hit from actually building something, from being able to use the power drill. Of course, I'd have to hold it and then pull the trigger kind of thing. But it was, so many great memories in there that a lot of these things, they don't even remember. They're now teenagers. Hey, you remember when No. But the impact it had on them. The confidence, the emotion, we want to go to grandma and grandpa. They associate these kinds of things with you. They associate, the feeling of confidence that they have. They associate with all of these things that they learn, the things that they can do, the things that are possible, the things that they can build, and as opposed to what? How many freaking gold coins they get in a Mario thing? or how many aliens they can kill, or how many sniper red spray heads they can blow off and, call a kick-ass. So this is, it's so obvious that if it's not intentional to cause a dystopian type future with brain dead, messed up kids, that they're allowing it to happen for whatever benefit they get and eyes on screen to sell advertising. There is definitely an awareness that this goes. Of course, there's gazillion studies, a lot of things that Jay brings up, a lot of things that we have to share with everybody else. You're muted if you're trying to get in, Jay. But the whole thing that we wanted to emphasize is the importance of not losing an entire next generation. And Jay, having been an advocate for this kind of stuff for years before he had children, and we can walk these guys through. We follow. We could go through my children. They're in their 30s and now, and screw you, we're not, coming well are busy, But then you have Bob's kids. There's 20 and 21. Awesome, but he spent a lot of that was his focus. He had children. He's a couple of years older than me, and his kids are probably 15 years younger than mine. Well, he started later, but he knew, just like Jay did. Jay started later. He knew. So now he's out doing his part, advocating for not sacrificing our children to the altar of Moloch's tablet. Just saying,
So,
yeah,
I've been here the whole time. I just put it on mute while the kids are partying in the background.
I can't hear them. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so the a couple of things to bring up here. There's a lot of the internet has really trashed our culture. It is, I believe the internet is one of the huge elements responsible for massive population decline. So if you look at South Korea and Japan, where high-speed internet first came on, that's where the men are just not interested in girls at all.
Oh, point.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the pornography, like I tell people all the time, the one thing I really love doing is talking with families and especially like teenage boys about like, or young teenagers about, what they want to do with themselves, or boys. And so one of the things that Cash, come on, buddy, quiet down a little bit. Well, he's just distracting me is what's going on. So with Generation Next, so I want them to have valuable, competent skills. They're getting back to the pornography. I got off track here. So the pornography is really a big problem. There wasn't really high-speed internet quite so much everywhere in the U.S. until so when I graduated high school in 98, there was not a high-speed internet in my town. My high school in 1998, we had a dial-up router. I believe I had dial-up right up until like 2006, 2007, where I, grew up, rural Massachusetts. But when my buddies in 1999 went to like UMass, they went to like Westfield State and these big colleges, they're like, the thing they thought was the coolest was how good the porno worked. So this was like 1999 when my friends are all freshmen in college, and the biggest thing that they liked about at college was the porno. So also what generally happened in the college, from what I understand from a few of my friends, and I've also studied this UCLA psychologist, he talks about pornography addiction and how it's causing like all of these anxiety and depression among men. So sort of happens in college culture is, your roommate's gone, when your roommate's gone. So, you go to class, you come back and your roommate's not around. Porno works good. You're going to use porno. And then what happens is this starts reshaping the brain of the men. It actually changes the way the man's brain functions. So they have ways of like scanning your brain, and it shows like these areas of light in the brain, like where the brain is, functioning more, and then there's other places where there's like less light, it's not functioning. So these things change based on whether or not, man's been using porno essentially to, satisfy himself. Um, and what this UCL, I forget this guy's name, but he had a bunch of TED Talks. If you internet search UCLA TED Talk, porn addiction, I'm sure you'll find these guys' YouTube videos. And this was like 8, 9 years ago. I started listening to these. I was actually renting a mini excavator off, and I was doing some bunch of landscape excavation work. So I was just downloading MP3s and stuff like this because I have a very good friend of mine. She's older, but she's got some alcohol and drug issues, and I was just trying to figure out what's going on. So I started, while I'm sitting in an excavator 6, 7 hours a day, I'm listening to TED Talks and podcasts about this stuff. So what the guy basically said that is when a man goes to college. Oh, he tried to do a study at UCLA. I forget what year this was. Maybe 2010, 2008 was the year he tried to do this study. Could be 2001. I can't remember. But he wanted to do a study of men at the college who use porno and don't use porno. He couldn't come up with a control because he couldn't find any students that didn't use pornography.
Right.
So he one of the things that he started doing with in his clinic with treating depression and anxiety with men, and it was mostly single men and married men also, but mostly single men or men that weren't like actively dating. Was he's like, yeah, you need to stop using pornography, and they would stop using pornography and the depression would go away. But not in the men who started using pornography when they were like 11, 12, 13 years old. So what I'm getting, and I didn't explain this real good, but basically if you started using pornography, digital high-speed internet type pornography is way different than like Grandpa's Playboy, or even like, the only pornography I really had access to as like a teenager was, a VHS, like VCR, and there was one TV in the house in the living room, or even, so there was no way like you could like actually even utilize it. But the pornography with the internet, with the tablets, with the screens all designed is very addictive. But when the adult brain starts using a lot of pornography, high-speed internet pornography, and it changes, and they can see this change in these scans, and then that guy stops using the pornography, his brain goes back to normal or goes back to baseline. Well, when the kid is 11 years old and he's got his own tablet and his own phone, and his hormones are telling him to search for this information about women and reproduction and sex and all this stuff, then now he's got the internet teaching him about the birds and the bees, the algorithm teaching him about the birds and the bees, and what the internet teaches these young men to be attracted to, or programs them to be attracted to, doesn't exist in real life women. So then you have what is now happening in South Korea and Japan. The men are not interested in real life women because of they have had high-speed internet for so long there, and the accessibility to pornography. Now, I believe the algorithm's agenda is to program men to reject women and to encourage women to commit suicide. So if you start looking at everywhere like Instagram and Snapchat and these things, every country where these apps came online, Instagram's the real big one here, teen suicide just skyrocketed and has been at peak ever since. So if you look at all the European countries, like when these apps came out, America, Canada, Australia, every country, just the suicide of girls goes up and up. So it's tremendously important that we keep our kids off internet devices. And like you said that, and one funny thing you said, Ernie, you said something about, oh, we can replace the internet time with work activities and farming and earning dopamine hits. Well, that's what everybody did in America, 50 years ago, 75 years ago, 100 years ago. So I like to say, like, 200 years ago, the average American 12-year-old boy or girl could competently, correctly harness a horse, hook that horse up to the wagon, to the stagecoach, to the Meadowbrook, to the sleigh. They could probably remove a shoe from a horse and drive a horseshoe nail into a hoof properly. I like how Casey there, Doug Casey, he talks about how a kid could, shoe a horse, could weld a horse, could weld a shoe together. And he's like talking about me and all my brothers, talking about hacking computers. Like my brother is an excellent computer hacker. I was hacking diesel pickup truck computers for a long time. That was about the only hacking I ever really did. Uh, but so being, the kid, 200 years ago could, grease the wheels on the wagon, could probably stitch a wound on a horse or a cow, could doctor it up, would know that you have to cool the horse down before you let him eat, feed, for example. 75, 80 years ago, every 16-year-old kid could change their tire, could change the oil, could change the spark plug, could clean the spark plug, gap the spark plug, change and adjust the points on their car, because these things always had to happen with cars 50, 75 years ago. Today, the car doesn't even come with a spare tire. It doesn't have points or spark plugs, quite likely. None of them have points anymore. Cars are extremely reliable. Heck, I got a minivan out there with 250,000 miles on it. You didn't get 250,000 miles out of a 1971 Nova. You know what I mean? So cars are super reliable that people have forgotten how to work about cars. And it's become way easy with this parasite economy and fractional reserve banking to get some kind of bureaucratic parasitic job that makes a lot of money. So you just go hire some mechanic to fix your car. And now we got a whole bunch of people that don't know how to use a clutch, couldn't even fix their car if they had to. And I believe in the good things coming, because the kids I know, the kids I have an impression on, my kids are going to be able to do all these things. They will be able to do it competently and with confidence. And I am going to, and I'm also training all these people that I work with and to charge double for, of whatever they think they're worth when they go out and start doing their, business or whatever, or hustling. Let's charge double, guys, and not try out undercutting each other. And when you start getting, paid double what you're worth, that's a real big confidence builder too.
This is an example of this was certainly COVID. It keeps coming up. Anybody that was paying attention, actually trying to not get their next stimulus check, and what happened when I talked to a lot of the young people as we were traveling, there was a guy in Michigan that was a son of an activist, a guy that I knew, and they had closed the campus, and they did some kind of stimulus thing that they got to go, well, what'd you guys do? Did you, go learn something? Did you go out? Nah, played video games, So I'm wondering what, I always ask why. I have, people on that are activists, they do different things, they write a book, they're exposing things, and I go, okay, why? Why do you care? What book did you read? Who told you? What was the uncle, the parent, the grandparent, the coach, the teacher, the educator, somebody that, convinced you that it was a good thing to do something, to care about something, to provide something. And there's some question that I would ask, if they're not productive, what prevented you? What is it that got inside your head that stopped you? What is preventing you from being successful? What's making you sit on the couch? What is it in the basement that you're playing video games all the time? Because I'm always emphasizing why. Why are you like it? Why do you do this? Why? And I'm looking for the secret sauce. Probably what certainly now I should be asking is why not? What is it that is in your life preventing you from doing this? And a lot of it is just boredom replacement with this kind of stuff that will give you the hit when we were out building tree forts, and breaking arms and stuff, drinking out of the hose, oh my God. And as we were doing this kind of stuff, what allowed for that? Was it the lack of the dopamine hit from these electronic devices, or was it, mom or dad wasn't at home? They weren't encouraging. They weren't, hell, now we
all of the above.
Right. And now we got kids that were affected by this stuff now starting to have kids.
Yep.
How the hell is that going to work out? Because
let
me make this point. My grandchildren now that are from as young as 4 to 16, their parents were still at home, before they went into the world and so on. At home, the internet, they were just starting to get into broadband. They just had a couple of years of Facebook. They were just getting into, they were MySpace people. So they were not as immersed in this possibility. They were probably made aware of what was coming. But now you got AI. AI is going to program the content to create whatever foundational type of person that they want, not only for that child and that young adult coming up, it's for the children that they're having. I have no idea what's coming. It's not going to be good. We need to get ManCamped up. We need the preparation. We need to occupy the land. We need to get your ass out from in front of the device. And I always go to my guy, you're blue-faced again? I'm tired of coming over. You're always blue-faced. You got blue-face on, because they're looking at their devices. So that's one thing that I didn't even, till just now, that I realized they're creating an entire generation that's going to raise the next generation, and they're not going to know any different.
Said
Jay?
You had sounds like you threw about 15 questions at me, but how did I get to where I am now? Who was the uncle that influenced me? So I had a lot of really great influence in my life. My father hung out with a
Did I lose you? You're saying your father hung out with
an eclectic group of people. So growing up, I mostly hung out with my dad's friends, adults, people working, and most of these people were entrepreneurs that my father hung out with. Blacksmiths, electricians, HVAC guys, auto repair, were like a lot of my father's peers, other small businessmen. And these were guys who did business with, they had horses and whatnot, or their wives had horses, their kids took riding lessons. So one of the things is that I learned from a lot of people is he used some of the bad example people in our life as good examples. So one of the guys who taught me blacksmithing, he was an alcoholic and a very bad alcoholic. And he's one of the reasons I have no interest in drinking, because that guy, could have had such a
Yeah, you're cutting out again. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. This is such a good conversation.
My dad, for example, was bringing me to John Birch Society meetings when I was a little kid. When I was Cash's age, I was going to John Birch Society meetings. And also my mom and my father had split up when I was very young too. So, and my dad raised me, as a single father with the help of his mother, my grandmother, and then he met my stepmom, or got with my stepmom, I guess, when I was like 6. So, going out and just working, having to do work, and the fact that my dad was a libertarian, right from the get-go, the fact that I never had a social security number, people told me I wouldn't be able to do anything, get anything done, go anywhere. the Bob Anderson, our friend Bob, would say it's because you were raised on well water. There was no fluoride in your water growing
Right.
up. For example, he always asked people that are libertarians if they're on fluoride. Um, so that's another thing too. There's like a whole another aspect of like not giving our kids poor food, for example, like nutrition. So one of the things that I think that's really going on here in the Western world, Europe and the U.S. mostly, is you have a lot of welfare recipients living in the cities, and especially in like New York City and L.A. and stuff, and Baltimore. You got these welfare states that are very aggressive, and you have generations, 5 and 6 generations of families been on welfare, and these generations of people have been on welfare. They don't know the babies don't know the dads. 90% of the kids don't know the dads, or 70%. It's a huge number. And they're all eating junk food. They're living in the city with all the chemicals. I really highly doubt that the moms that are using food stamps to buy, cereal and cheap processed foods are feeding their kids or giving their kids any kind of vitamins and supplements, which is important. But the processed food, like what you shouldn't be giving your kids any sugary or junk food or any kind of juices or sodas uh, when they're little. Why are you bringing that stuff into the house? Because that is also programming them to be essentially a big pharma customer for life. And then the other thing is the vaccines. I literally know hundreds of unvaccinated kids. They're not sick. They don't have any chronic illness. There's no issues. I know of a handful of autistic kids, and they're all vaccinated. Um, so there's a lot of things that we can do if we are prepared. For just understanding, not getting the kids vaccinated, not putting them on Similac, which is basically breast milk favored Coca-Cola. All these things that are pushed in the urban cultures, in the welfare culture, and the welfare has become a culture, and corporate welfare is a culture too. So the people in the cities and in these areas, it seems like they're getting generationally, they're like declining. The IQs are getting lower. But when you're for generations feeding, the people, they're eating garbage food, they're in a garbage environment, they're drinking fluoridated water with all kinds of other chemicals in them. They're in these cities. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And you're starting to see this is coming about right now. Then you have also the stacking of the internet devices on top of all of the chemicals and hormones and fake foods and processed foods and garbage. So another thing that's awesome about farming with kids is like my kids love fruit and vegetables. They don't even ask for candy bars. They don't know what any of that stuff is. They're not into soda. They don't have soda. I do let them have some seltzer sometimes. They call that's like a soda to them. Uh, but I'm even doing things with my kids. Like every day we take activated charcoal because charcoal actually ozonated activated charcoal is something I got a little while ago, and it absorbs microplastics. But charcoal, like I feed it to my kids, my pigs, my cows, my chickens, myself, a lot because it helps clean the body, absorb toxins, whatever. Just there's a lot of things we can do, and I am putting together an entire collection of presentations. I'm working on one on nutrition, the one about internet devices, putting your kids to work as soon as they show interest in working. That's the big thing. When a 2-year-old is like, "Daddy, I want to come work with you," you can't tell them no. You got to take them. And if you don't have a job or a career where you can do that, then I think you're failing your kid. Um, and that's the thing. I've just been taking my kids to work with me as soon as they show interest. And even today, driving in a driveway, Cash says, "Dad, when can we blow leaves? I want to use the leaf blower." He knows that the leaves are going to start falling pretty soon. Go ahead, Ernie.
No, I'm listening. We can wrap it up.
Stop it,
Here in a
Nick.
little bit, but I wanted to make sure that you got to express yourself on this because it's important for people to. And one thing that I can add to my thought process and in my interviews is something that I just realized while we were talking. When I asked people the why all the time of, you know, why they were freedom oriented, why they do, you know, what they do, why they care, you know, what this empathy came from, where, from grandma, or, you know, you just have this justice gene in you. I mean, why?
I have the awareness in me, and yes, it came from grandma. Grandma started paying me in Susan B. Anthony dollars when I was 6 years old, and I still have. I think I got them all. I got most of them.
Yeah, that'll do
yeah.
it. Well, the revelation to me was not so much that, it was, what's preventing you? What made it difficult for you not to care, not to want part of, not to choose the right thing, not to get out from in front of the TV, what is it? And, you know, I think you hit on it. You know, that's why I wanted you to explain the dopamine thing. It's because, one, it's intentional. They know how the brain works. They know what it takes. They study it to make sure that their platform is, you know, more access. That's why TikTok is such a thing. You know, Instagram was, now it's TikTok. And I'm going, it was intentional. It was intentional, it was understood, and it was on purpose. And I'm going, okay, all right. You know, this is like something we should be at least aware of, if not opposed. I mean, I don't know, are you going to pass a law? I mean, I don't know what to do about it other than to talk about it. And the studies, like there are studies you're talking about. Well, and the one thing that you brought up is that when it starts, you know, because if I was, you know, 12 years old and I had broadband internet, I'd be pouring it all over the place. I mean, at least looking, you know, and then how you get hooked or whatever. But it was that we have an entire generation worldwide, and the fact that you put up what happened to Japan. We've done stories where they've taken people from America, like you have all over the world, they go and they make money teaching English. Oh, do you know Chinese? No, but I know how to speak English. All right, well, get your ass over here and teach them English. I mean, you know, you make money teaching English. Well, then they bring people over from America to Japan. I remember even 60 Minutes did a big thing years ago on teaching them to date. You know, how to find a spouse, how to ask somebody out, how to socialize, because they didn't know. And it wasn't even, you know, like real porn. It was this anime porn. I'm going, man, have a higher standard or something. And I'm going, this has been so revolutionary in seeing that you have an entire country is winking out because their birth rate is so low that they're just need robots to take care of their elderly. And it's because of what? What happened? Well, I didn't think of anything other. You know, they got Americanized or ate McDonald's or whatever the hell happened to the Japanese. And I remember we do a regular show every couple of weeks with James Corbett. And he goes, in like '07, when he first started, you know, the Corbett Report and everything, it was because he got an apartment, he's teaching English, he's in Japan, and what did they have? High-speed internet. And he goes, everybody had high-speed internet. And I'm going, oh, so when you say this, where did you have the problem start? Japan. Why? Because they had high-speed internet, and they lost a generation. Well, that's coming up now. And who was, you know, emphasizing a lot of this, you know, going after the young men, Christian beliefs, do the right thing, be a good person, you know, killing the woke mind virus, you know, learn the truth about whatever, a lot of this stuff. And they had to take Charlie Kirk out. And it could very easily be for a reason just like this. They thought they had Generation Next, which meant they're going to have generations after that, and a movement to pull your kids away from being blueface, getting their dopamine hits from, you know, a faith in God, a faith in themselves, a faith in their country, a faith in some principle, a faith in something else other than going blueface. That could very easily tell us where the battlefield really is. ManCamp, Jay Noone.
So I never really got into like doing like you know, drugs. I've never done like any hard drugs actually at all. And And so I got some friends that have like, they've done likes of like ecstasy or Molly, and Molly and ecstasy might be the same thing. I'm not 100% sure about this, but one of the things that one of them was talking about was like, oh, you don't ever want to like have sex while you're on ecstasy or Molly or on both of them or whatever, because then it's just not any good anymore, without it.
I've heard that. That
So,
it's just so overwhelming that you never get that again, but you try, kind of thing.
right. So then you start going down this road to where like, you're going out and, being a horror master and, doing, lots of these, whatever those drugs, that type of drug does to your brain, ecstasy or Molly or something. And anyways, so allowing the internet device to be any part of the developing brain's life, it's basically like you're getting them high on cocaine. And there is tremendous resistance in parents who have been letting their kids do the digital cocaine. And a lot of it is, the parents have got, are constantly, on social media, for example, and the social media is extremely addictive. But I think if you can keep your kids off internet devices, junk food, public schools, like you really don't have to put, there's not a whole lot you're going to have to do, and your kids are going to be pretty okay if you can just keep all that stuff away from them. But you just can't let kids sit around and do nothing. Let's give them jobs. Let's give them something to do. And what has happened for the last, 20 some odd years now, 25 years, is the internet device has become, the new hobby for the kids. How many model airplanes and model car kits get sold now?
Point.
Right.
Man, I was a RC airplane building kind of, some bitch, man. I was all into model rocketry and all kinds of stuff. Good point.
Me too. Yeah, I have model cars, model rockets. In fact, I got Cash just had a birthday. He just turned 4 on September 1st. And I got him a little wooden model cat backhoe thing. That it's all made out of wood, and you put it together and glue it, and you paint it and put the stickers on it. It comes with all the wood pieces, and my kids have done many of those glue together paint wood things. My wife gets them for them all the time. Butterflies, dragonflies, animals, and stuff like that. They do, and but yeah, keeping them busy. I trained a lot of horses and dogs, and the really really smart dogs like the healers and the shepherds. If you don't give them jobs, they become total a-holes, and they generally end up getting put down. So like the healer dogs are very smart. They're very high energy, the border collies. And if you don't give them a job, they turn into troublemakers. Basically the same thing with toddlers. If you don't give them some kind of job, even if the job is, so you got the slideshow running here, there's a whole bunch of pictures of pretty much Cash doing all kinds of work. And because that's the work that I do, that's the environment that I have created for my kids to see, because I want my kids to see me doing these jobs, feeding the animals, caring for the animals, doing whatever needs to be done, butchering the animals. You can see there's one still of Cypress pulling some guts, with guts out of a chicken. She's actually a pretty good chicken butcher, my daughter, my 5-year-old daughter. Cash is not really hasn't shown any interest really in butchering chickens. But Cypress is pretty good at it. And we also butchered pigs last year. My presentation that I did on at Anarchapulco and Porkfest this year was why you should raise your family on a homestead, farm, ranch, or small business. And I went all through how we're butchering the animals and raising the gardens and doing this with my kids and my friends' kids. And this is what's so awesome about the Free State Project is we have this concentration of people who are aware, they are skeptical of government. And just my whole life, I've always been skeptical of government. So even like 9/11, I knew 9/11 was an inside job basically that day. Not because I had already been listening to Alex Jones, but because every time the government and the media agree on something, it's to screw the people and it's a lie. So same thing with COVID. As soon as, the media is all in bed with government and all the pharmaceutical companies on all this stuff, I knew it was a false flag operation. I knew it was a hoax. Um, so I do have to get off of here pretty soon. But one thing I really want to stress towards people who have skills, and I would love for I really want to get on some podcasts that other influencers listen to a lot, and influencers do listen to this one because every time I do a show with you, I get text messages for the following weeks from people like, "Oh, I just listened to you on Ernie's show." Like Danny Sessoms and I can't think of the handful of people that
Now you know, yeah.
who are into stuff that listen to you. So the thing is anyone who has any kind of skill, or anyone who has let's just say anyone who's willing to have a forge in their garage and an anvil, which you could buy all this stuff on Amazon that you need for less than $1,000. You should by taking your anvil, your forge, and firing it up and inviting your kids in the neighborhood to come over and do some blacksmithing with you a few hours a week, is gonna make your neighborhood such a better place in 15 to 20 years because those kids that you've taught that simple skill of just blacksmithing, of just heating up iron and banging it with a hammer to make whatever you want, is going to make such an impact and a difference on the kids in your neighborhood that first off, you're probably going to be able to hire one of those kids as an old man to do some work for you, and they'll probably really respect you and want to do a good job. And let's say you're like a guy that has no children or a woman that has no children. Well, there's going to come a day where, you're going to wish you had some children. And I think one thing that these childless people should be doing, especially ones that have skills, is they should be teaching these skills to children and investing in children in this way. So when they become, an old man that has no children, maybe there'll be somebody there that loves them enough to care about, what they're doing in their, in their final years,
Right.
Otherwise you're going to become a ward of the state. The way the population and demographics are going in the U.S. and around the world, but definitely in the U.S., what I see in the future is the good things coming for my kids and the kids I've had the ability to influence, because they will have built their dopamine hits from actually doing real life things and feeling good about fixing stuff. Like I had a couple of kids in the go-kart, the valve stems were all rotted out. So I showed one of the 8-year-old kids how to cut out a rotted valve stem on a tire. It was like a 20-year-old go-kart and how to replace them. And I did one of them, and the 8-year-old kid cut out all the other valve stems and replaced the other 3 and replaced them. And he was so happy of himself doing that particular job. So, but by just doing that, I think my kids are going to be really valuable. I think the kids that I've been dealing with, and I've seen this now because I'm 46 years old. I've been doing what I'm doing now basically my entire life because I watched my father do this. My father always wanted these kids to be worth more leaving his farm than when they got to his farm. So one of the things that's been happening with me with all these guys, like there was Justin, there was Dylan, there's Adam, there's several of them. They come work for me. I pay them a wage. I don't pay them a lot of money. $20 an hour is kind of like, the New Hampshire minimum wage, or whatever. And I got them welding. I got them just helping me with farm stuff. I do a lot of heavy equipment repair. I got them just grinding on iron, doing things. And then, they work with me for several months, and then they're basically getting a job offer from somebody for double what I'm paying or 50% more than I'm paying. And I'm happy for them to go do that, because that's what I really want to do. I want.
Yeah, you cut out again. This is invested. That's one thing he made a point of, is that you have people with skills that don't have children, don't have grandchildren, or they don't have them nearby. They're moved away or whatever. And that's one thing. Like our friend Bob, he's in Civil Air Patrol. He's got a plane, and they have, it's kind of a volunteer air rescue, search and rescue kind of thing that is married with the Air Force. It's part of the Air Force. And he goes to these high school kids that are in a high school that's close to him that his sons went to, and they go there and they recruit and they go into the Civil Air Patrol as junior pilot, whatever the heck, they're kind of like ROTC for the Air Force kind of thing, Civil Air Patrol stuff, and they get flying lessons and they go, it's a good deal, but he goes, these kids, they love this stuff because they don't have anywhere to go. There's nobody at home. They don't like home. They're not, they don't want to play video games. These are the self-starting individuals, and he's given back. And he kind of went through it, because he was doing it with his son, and he continues it because he goes, it's so valuable to these kids. And to have that attitude, to share this kind of stuff, I think is, something we should all think about. And as we get further along on Occupy the Land here and so on, they're going to have a motorcycle or something, get out in the desert out here, 15 miles from home kind of deal. But the you can see that what we've been talking about today, and the preparation by Doug Casey, talking with David Slopey, talking to J-Bow's son Cash, we'll be talking with Bob's sons. I wanted to do this series because I wanted people to understand how important I thought it was, and the role that they can have in not just the lives of themselves and their children and grandchildren, but in their community, their neighborhood. That's what Jay does. The Free State Project's a community. It's just a bunch of like-minded individuals that, it's good to hear that, everybody's pregnant, because this is what I realized when I went to Porcupine Freedom Festival. I've gone to like 15. Back, I think the first one was like in '08. And what I experienced was, it's a freedom-oriented thing. And a lot of, young people, we did our Freedom Summit in, God, I think it was '04 or '05 of the beginning of the Free State Project in Manchester. And it's the only one that we ever did outside of Arizona. And the reason was to, support that which we want to see more of. But what happened was, you go to the Pork Fest, and there's freedom. People walk around with guns. People, smoking marijuana openly or at their campsite, or just, freedom chilling. And so they go to you got to go to Pork Fest, man. Oh, man, freedom. We walk around. Yeah, you can smoke dope, do kind of people. God, it's all good. Freedom. Let's go. Well, then the next year, some of their friends would come and do that. But then, 5, 6, 7 years go by. You have the Levolution. They start having children. Well, they're going, hey, man, go do that over there. You don't want to be in front of my kid. All of a sudden, they became family-oriented. So Porcupine Freedom Festival becomes a more family-oriented thing. This is what I'm sure that they are feeling. They're understanding the importance of community, relationships, and the raising of children. And when you do that, you're much more attuned because you went through the process. You were a kid. You went through that. We need to be adults. We need to be more cognizant of what it takes to raise a child, the influences that are on them. And now we're battling the devil. And he makes you blue face. Whatever. So I am, just wanted to make sure you guys, I got this on record, that these are the families and the people that we're paying attention to that are good friends, good freedom-oriented, liberty community people that are taking this seriously, that are doing it, that are, we're going to be able to tell. Are they going to be, and you can tell, one thing is quit poisoning your kids. The vaccine thing, I really noticed it when we started having children in the late 80s and the 80s, and I had no idea this was going on, but this is when they were like mandating vaccines on everybody, or the no liability, the vaccine companies and all that kind of stuff, drug companies. And then all of a sudden in the church, we had the nursery, for babies, and they'd be people that would watch them, and you go to church and come back, and then, they'd graduate and go to, the toddlers in the first grade and kindergarten, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, they had, and it was a big church, they had a big area expansion of special needs. Kids that had autism, kids that were having, disabilities, screaming, yelling, crying, in pain, having all kinds of different health problems and so on. And a lot of times the parents went to the church just so they'd have an hour to freaking, not be with. And it was just amazing how that started to expand. And our kids were, save that, but, we would go for the waiver. We would like, no, there's a waiver, we can do it. All right, we're not doing it. And then we just started homeschooling and sent them to private school because, hell no. As time has gone on, it's only gotten worse. And it's amazing what we've gotten used to and we've allowed to happen to our children. And it's only going to get worse. Now we have an awareness, and certainly after COVID and, RFK Jr. being in Trump administration hopefully will help. But it's not just the vaccines. It's every level of poison, fluoridation, red dye number 470, whatever the hell. I mean, all this crap that they're putting in. And my kids make fun of me all the time. I always go, toxic waste, toxic waste. If it came out of a Mylar bag or in a cardboard box, toxic waste, toxic waste. Well, you're having it. And I go, well, yeah, I have a Dorito every now and then. But I mean, it's not a major food group, so I'm just like, wow. This is what we're dealing with. And I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that I have close personal friends that understand it as well and have children that are younger than ours. A lot of them, even younger than my grandkids, some of them about my grandkids' age. So we're taking this seriously, and I hope you do too. Jay, are you back?
Oh, yeah.
Final words, man. You're cutting out a bunch. It's not conducive. So go ahead and say your final piece.
I've been here the whole time. Hey, if you guys want to contact me, you can find me at jaynoone.com. That's JAYNOONE.com. You can email me, jay@jaynoone.com, if you want to, show me some love and send me some cryptocurrency. At the bottom of jaynoone.com, there's some QR codes there you could donate to. I gotta do something better about updating that website, but I'm like really not into that stuff and I'm pretty busy. But the biggest thing I really want to push people to do is let's invest in our posterity. If you have some skills and you're retired or you even got a few hours a week, teach it to the kids in your neighborhood and kids, especially like the urban kids, the city kids that aren't on, even the rural kids too, the kids that aren't on devices are so thirsty for the farm work, for the blacksmithing, the welding. I mean, when these kids are like, Farmer Jay, we're here to shovel pig poop. I'm ready to shovel pig poop, and they're just so happy that they're not in the city or they're not at their house, or they're just so happy they're here because they really love it. Unless it's like extremely cold or hot, then they whine. But it's really good. I believe that the good things coming for New Hampshire, for my community. I think that we are going to thrive, but I think it's going to get very scary and dark in places like the cities and a lot of the cities. I also feel that I think that the purpose of COVID was to kill off was to get a bunch of people to take a bioweapon to kill off all the pensioners, and to sort of protect the currency. So I think if a bunch of pensioners don't die, there's going to be a massive currency debt issue. So one of the things that I also do with my homeschool co-op and my kids is we are constantly going to mom and pop shops and farmers markets, and we have co-op free stater farmers markets and even regular farmers markets. And I'm getting my kids to trade in silver. Ernie, last time when I was in Arizona this winter and I visited you, we went to the Oro Valley Farmers Market, and there was a woman from Ukraine who was very much against Ukrainian war, was very much against the World Economic Forum. She's very awake. And she was so excited that my just 5-year-old daughter could explain to her what silver is, what you use silver for, and how it's real money. If you guys want to get some silver to help teach your kids about just weights and measures, my friend Silver Dave at localsilvermint.com sells silver bits. And Ernie, you got to get Silver Dave on again. Dave's doing really amazing. He's doing a great job. His business is worth millions of dollars now. He's doing such an awesome job with silver, and he is manufacturing the cheapest 1/10 ounce silver you can buy. If you buy it directly from Dave, it's basically $4.90 an ounce over spot for 1/10 ounce silver, or 49 cents per 1/10 over spot. So we've been trading in silver, gold backs. The kids really like the silver way better than the gold backs, and it's just there's just so much to it. And if anybody wants some consultation from me, please email me, jay@jaynoone.com, about what to do with your kids. And I've actually helped just a lot of people just with a few emails now, give them some ideas and suggestions, things to do. One kid's getting into blacksmithing, another kid's getting into, and I don't even know these people. They just like hear me on Free Talk Live, or they met me at Pork Fest or on your show, Ernie. And they, so I got some people contacting me now, and this is pretty cool because, they want their kids to be useful, valuable, and competent because they love their kids. And, when you get old, it gets to a point. It's either going to be your heirs taking care of you, your posterity taking care of you, or the state. So, you definitely want whoever's taking care of you when you're a very old man to be someone who's useful, valuable, and competent. And dangerous. The whole dangerous thing I didn't even consider until listening to Doug Casey.
That was interesting. It competent, confident, and dangerous. And I'm like,
right.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, I like
that's
that.
Good. And to hear Maxim even say it. Hey, thanks for coming on. It's the kids are all part of the show and everything, but the breaks in the audio, that kind of sucks. I'd rather you just let them scream. I don't care. But this has been just another step in this series. I wanted to make sure people knew that there are people out there that are examples to me and to the community that are doing it. We're not just talking about it. And there's research on it, and Jay has been doing prepared presentations around the world, and it's just so important. And I'm glad that we had the ad to this, because I was always, what is it, the why you care and why you do it and the why, and now it's kind of, but you got to have the people not doing it to ask them why not. What is it in your way?
Yeah, why don't you want to go work? So I had a guy that he's actually he's a sort of a relative of mine, same age as me, and he worked with me in the hay business, and he was really good. And he would take his vacation week from work, and he would work for me and help me run hay and haul horses. Anyways, for years I tried to get him to go independent and go on his own. And he goes, no, I can't have a job where I don't have health care benefits, where I don't have this benefits, where I don't have retirement. He was so programmed, and both of his parents work for the state, by the way. But he was so programmed, and now his brother works for the state. And he's a CDL truck driver, and he's got a good work ethic, so he makes really good money now. But he could have done really awesome going on his own and have a lot more flexibility. Probably would have had a family, maybe even. Same age as me, doesn't have any kids yet. He is married. But the thing is he would just be afraid to go out on his own. It was fear. He had no confidence, and it was programmed into him. If he didn't have, the pension, the medical benefits, and this benefit, and this, and the other thing, he was going to be in all kinds of trouble. So yeah, he's basically, just been working, a lot of slave hours. He makes pretty good money now, but. And it's been, sort of a cost, and it's all fear epidemic. But yeah, Ernie, I love talking with you. It's been a long time since we caught up. We've both been really busy. I gotta check out here very soon. These kids are waiting for me.
Yeah, no, we're good. Thanks for coming on, spending the time. It was good to see the kids again. Hopefully they remember me.
Oh, Cypress definitely does.
So we'll get up there as soon as we can. Peace, awesome. Brother. Thanks for coming on. Say hey to everybody.
Love you, Ernie. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.